Shema Yisrael, Yahu Eloheinu, Yahu Echad. Baruch Shem Kebod Malkotho Leholam Voed.
Shalom, everyone. Anochi Rabba Chatumayad Babel Raz. I am the Chief Magician of Mystery Babylon, and welcome to my holy channel. I have a very exciting, very powerful presentation that I'm going to be presenting in this video, dealing with the Orphic mysteries and the very primordial Hebrew Kabbalah. And I'm actually excited to share this because I actually created this presentation using AI, which was just really ridiculously just beyond impressed me, to say the least. Just how powerful AI can be, how impressive it can be. But anyways, before I begin the presentation, as I've repeatedly stated, as the highest Jew and the only Grandmaster in this last generation, this video is just going to be another powerful still and proof that indeed, amen, amen, I am the Chief Magician in Mystery Babylon, and that there is not one person out there that is anywhere near my level or is even revelating anywhere near my level. This is a pure fact. And again, this is just a very powerful still and proof of this because, I'm the only Grandmaster Jew on the scene above ground that is revealing the highest, most sublime mysteries. There's no one else out there that is anywhere near my level or revelating anywhere near my level, to say the least. So please understand this, because unfortunately, the masses, a lot of goyim, everyone out there just doesn't seem to understand this very voracious, powerful point, very lamentably. But okay, so let's begin this very powerful esoteric presentation. So I'm going to be discussing the very ancient Orphic mysteries and the equations and parallels that exist between it and our very primordial Hebrew Kabbalah. So the ancient Greek Orphic mysteries and the primordial esoteric Kabbalah share profound connections as revealed by various scholars and esoteric writings. As proven and stated in my writings, the ancient Greeks were initiated into the mysteries by our ancient Hebrew/Jewish hierophants and epops. This explains the many equations and similarities between the ancient Greek myths, the Orphic mysteries, and the primordial esoteric Kabbalah. Already in my very esoteric book, Divine Revelations from the Holy Samael, I revealed for the first time powerful esoteric equations between the Orphic mysteries and ancient esoteric Jewish Gnosticism. So I was the very first Jew and Grandmaster to come on the scene, and in this book, for the first time, I revealed very, very powerful esoteric connections and equations between the Orphic mysteries and very ancient esoteric Jewish Gnosticism and Kabbalah. Again, just one of the very sublime seals and proofs that I'm the Chief Magician in Mystery Babylon. Now, other esoteric equations between the ancient Greek myths and the writings and the primordial Kabbalah are contained in my very sealed esoteric book, Sefer Atzilut, which will probably never be revealed. In any case, many scholars have already proven my previous assertion above in many books on this subject. Additionally, there's a very brilliant, genius paper by my most favorite preeminent scholar, Yehuda Leibs, on the Kabbalah's relation to the Orphic mysteries. And Yehuda Leibs provides a lot of very powerful insights into these ancient connections. And in fact, a lot of what I'll be sharing in this presentation is contained in this very brilliant paper that Yehuda Leibs has revealed, which is very impressive. I do consider Yehuda Leibs to probably be the only other Grandmaster on the scene besides me, because he literally is at the forefront in revolutionary, groundbreaking research and revelations, on the Kabbalah. Okay. So let's talk about Fanes, who is considered the father of gods in the Orphic pantheon. So he is birthed from the divine cosmic egg at the creation of the universe. And he is known by the epithet Eric Pios. I have here the way you spell it in Greek, which would be pronounced Eric Pios in ancient Greek. Now, there's this very momentous, powerful connection to Arihanpin. There's this very powerful connection that connects Arihanpin to Fanes and Eric Pios. The mystery being that Arihanpin, or as he is known in Hebrew, Eric Apayim, is revealed through this Greek transliteration of Eric F. So Af or F in Hebrew is the Hebrew Targum of the Aramaic Anf, which means face. So again, very, very powerful connection that we can see here. I mean, when you pronounce Eric Pios, you can immediately see this phonetic resemblance and connection to the Aramaic Arich Anpin. Very powerful. So looking at the etymology of Eric Pius, there's a lot of scholarly contention, to say the least. Many researchers have thought a Greek etymology for Eric Pius. The widely accepted interpretation being that it signifies the one who was swallowed in the morning, or the one who was swallowed early, alluding to Zeus swallowing him. However, there are a number of linguistic challenges in this. The explanation is considered strained linguistically because there's no Greek word kapaios, and deriving it from the verbs katapio or kapto is not straightforward. And there are alternative interpretations. For example, Robert Eisler, well, you know what? Did I miss something here? Yes, I forgot to mention, guys, before I continue, that this equation between Fanes and Arich Anpin was first noted by the Austrian Jewish polymath Robert Eisler in his German book, Wetzel Mantel und Himmelwelt. Excuse my German, I'm not fluent in German, which translates to Mantle of the World and Tent of Heaven. Now, there is no question that Robert Eisler was a genius, absolute genius Jewish polymath. And there was this very disconcerting relationship between him and Gershom Scholem, because Gershom Scholem definitely recognized his genius, but had a lot of problems, with some of his research. But definitely a very powerful connection between Gershom Scholem and Robert Eisler. And in fact, Robert Eisler wrote a number of books in German, revealing some of the highest keys and very powerful revelations on the ancient mysteries. Unfortunately, this is not very well known outside of German academia. But continuing on, going back to what I was saying here on the alternative interpretations on the etymology of Eric Pius, Robert Eisler has already pointed this out in his discussion of Eric Pius, and he further demonstrated that the word kapo, the Greek word kapos, in the meaning of spirit, which others attempted to interpret Eric Pius as bringing spirit, does not exist, and its appearance in dictionaries is merely a play of grammarians. In contrast, the Hebrew etymology Eric Apayim is quite convenient and maintains the structure of the word. So we have a lot of in summary, we have a lot of evidence to point and indicate to a Semitic borlage for Eric Pius, as we'll see here even further on. So, um, no. So let's talk about the cosmic egg in ancient traditions. So ancient traditions across cultures share the concept of a cosmic egg. And this primordial symbol represents the origin of creation in various mythologies and religious texts. Um, and this is interesting because going back to the etymology of Eric Pius and its um, suspected Aramaic volage of Arik Anpin, John of Malalas, who is the historian from Antioch in the 6th century CE, taught that the name Eric Pius comes from a Semitic root meaning to give life. Now, this is very, very interesting because in the Sefer HaZohar, it is revealed that the two nostrils of Arich and Pin give life. In other words, in the Zohar, it is revealed that the nostrils of Arich and Pin are the most sublime root, source, and origin of all life. They give life. And so again, we can see this further connection being more, you know, deeply established in light of all of this. Now let's talk about this God Fanes Orphic tradition. He is there are certain Orphic sources that teach that Fanes is the first god. Um, you know, and however, there are other sources that contradict this in teaching that Fanes is the second god after Kronos. Now, according to all the true grandmasters that belong to the true esoteric holy order, the correct version is that Fanes is indeed the first god that begins the entire Orphic pantheon. And all other sources that contradict this are considered inferior and a later strata. Now, it is also taught that Fanes is bisexual, meaning he is male and female, and of course, the source of all creation as being the first god. So let's talk about Arich and Pin in the Zohar. So the very esoteric section of the Izra Zuta of the Zohar reveals Arich Anpin's nature, and it reveals that Arich Anpin is bisexual, and he is described as both male and female. He is also described as the source of all creation. So all creation stems from Arich Anpin, which is identical with Fanes. So let's talk about the cosmic egg in Canaanite religion. So the cosmic egg was very central to ancient Phoenician theology. Philo of Byblos, his writings attest and prove the cosmic egg's importance in Phoenician theology. It is also very interesting that the Neoplatonist philosopher Damascius describes Mochus' account of the cosmic egg. So, in synopsis, we see that this whole concept of the divine egg is very, very primordial, going all the way back to Phoenicia and Canaan. And so then we can then see how the Orphic mysteries are indeed rooted in very ancient Canaanite Phoenician theology, which is, of course, identical and synonymous with the very primordial Hebrew Kabbalah, considering that the Hebrew Kabbalah was born in the land of Canaan. So let's talk about the cosmic egg in creation in relation to the primordial Hebrew Kabbalah and the teachings of our ancient sages, which is a subset of the primordial Hebrew Kabbalah. So already we find in Bereshit Rabbah, chapter 2, our ancient Midrashim, there we read that the spirit of Elohim was blowing is not written in the first parasha of Bereshit. So in chapter 1, verse 2 of Bereshit, it is not written that the spirit of Elohim was blowing, but it is written that it was hovering like a bird that flaps its wings. They touch the nest, but do not quite touch. This is very, very momentous for what follows now. Because the spirit of God on the first day of creation is likened to a chick that is hatching and emerging from its egg. When the two parts of the egg, that is the upper waters and the lower waters, are still close to one another, for only on the second day, with the creation of the firmament, do the parts separate from each other and create the space of the universe. So here we can see the concept of the divine egg in our ancient Midrashim being revealed very implicitly. So this is also revealed in our ancient Talmud Babli in Tractate Chagiga 15a, where it reads, "And the spirit of Elohim hovered over the face of the waters like a dove hovering over its young without touching them." So again, we have more confirmation of this, okay? So now let's look at the cosmic egg in our very esoteric principal text of the Hebrew Kabbalah, Sefer HaZohar. So the concept of the cosmic egg in Sefer HaZohar, which is a fundamental text in Jewish mysticism, presents a profound metaphor for the origin of creation. This ancient wisdom, deeply rooted in Qabbalistic tradition, offers a unique perspective on the emergence of existence from a primordial state. The imagery of an egg hatching serves as a powerful symbol for the birth of the cosmos, blending mythical narratives with spiritual insights. Now, I'm going to dive very, very deep into one of the most esoteric passages in Sefer HaZohar, which is found in Book 1, Folio 15a. And unfortunately, I'm going to read the English translation. I'm going to read the English translation of this passage in Sefer HaZohar. And I must preface by saying that the English translation provided by Sephariah is erroneous and very inferior. So I'm going to have to I'm going to read the English translation, but I'm going to have to step in and duly note where the errors are and sort of correct some of the translation here. But the translation begins here by saying, "With the beginning of the manifestation of the king's will, that is, when the king desired to emanate and create the world, a heart spark made an engraving upon the supernal light. This heart spark, which emanated from the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of Ein Sof, took a shapeless form. The spark was then inserted into the center of a circle that was neither white nor black nor red nor green nor any color at all. When it began its measurements, it created colors that shone into the empty space and the engraving. From within the spark, this heart spark, a fountain sprouted from which the shades down below received their colors." Now, it is very momentous to understand that if you want a very profound, lucid, clear understanding of this passage, it must be read and understood in the original Aramaic language that it was written in. Okay, there's no way getting around this. Okay, so the beginning of this passage starts off by talking about it begins with Betehidu Ilah. It mentions the Tehidu Ilah, which is Aramaic for the upper Tehidu. And this Aramaic word Tehidu is considered a very, very enigmatic word in the Zohar. After the mention of the Bet Tehiru Ilah, then it mentions the Botsina de Kardinuta. Okay, another very, very enigmatic phrase in the Zohar. And there are many explanations and commentaries on these phrases in the very esoteric commentaries written by various Kabbalistic masters. And it's a very, very deep topic. For example, this phrase, the Botsina de Kardinuta, has not been understood by any Kabbalist that is known in the past 700 years. You know, in this last generation, as a true grandmaster, as a true Spanish grandmaster, whose bloodline descends from the bloodlines of the highest grandmasters in medieval Spain, I'm the only Jew in this last generation that has the full, clear, lucid understanding of what the Botsina de Kardinuta actually is, and it is fully revealed in my Sefer Atzilut, which again is a sealed text that will never be released to the public. So no one out there knows the actual true meaning of Botsina de Kardinuta other than me. I'm the only Jew in this last generation that has these keys. No one else. Okay, understand this. So what do these very enigmatic terms mean? Well, we're going to get a little bit deeper into that as we progress in these slides. As we progress in this presentation, and I penetrate ridiculously deep into this passage, you're going to see how it is so closely tied and connected to the Orphic mysteries. Okay. Continuing on to the next slide, which is a continuation of the passage. The English translation here reads, "From the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of Ein Sof, emanated two faces, one cleaved and the other did not cleave. Its atmosphere was unknown until a forceful blow split at seek and a concealed supernal potent shone. Beyond this point, nothing is noble, and because of this, it is called by the name Bereshit, or beginning, which means the first of the saints." Now, this is a very erroneous translation. There's a very extremely inferior translation of the underlying passage. Now, if we read the first sentence of this passage in the Aramaic, it actually reads, "The concealed inside the concealments of the mystery of Ein Sof." The original Aramaic then follows, "Bika wela bika." That in Aramaic, that translates to "it broke and it did not break," and then it follows "wira diya," which means it's ether. So again, to review, the translation is "it broke and it did not break, it's ether," or it's air. Duly note the mention of the word air in this passage, and also breaking. It's talking about a breaking occurring here. There's a breaking. And there are very sublime mysteries behind this breaking that will be explained here shortly. But keep all of this in mind. Again, I cannot emphasize that to fully understand the implications, the ramifications, and the full quintessence of this passage, you must be fluent in Aramaic and must read and understand this passage in the original Aramaic. There is no way getting around this, because too much is going to be lost in translation, unfortunately. So let us now then distinctly summarize the main points that are being revealed in this passage on the emergence of creation. It begins by delineating an initial state. An entity exists in a primordial state containing all potential. Then there is a point of emergence. A single point within the entity seeks to emerge outward. A breaking through, the point passes and attempts to break through the entity's boundary, concluded by a final emergence. Eventually, the pressure prevails and the point shines outward. Okay? So, what we then have here quintessentially is the metaphor of the hatching chick. We see implicit imagery in the Zohar's description implicitly portraying a chick hatching from an egg. And so we have this concealed meaning where apparently the Zohar sought to conceal this somewhat and wrap the mythical image in a layer of more speculative concepts. And we also have this Kabbalistic interpretation that is later that later Kabbalists recognized and explicitly pointed out this egg hatching metaphor, as we'll see here shortly. So there is this very esoteric Shabbatain Lurianic text. It is entitled Sefer Zadik Yesod Olam, and I'm the only Jew and Grandmaster that has published the only full English translation of this text. If you're interested in purchasing, you can go to my blog. I have the link if you're interested in purchasing. Again, I'm the only Jew and Grandmaster that has published a full English translation of this very, very esoteric Shabbatain Lurianic text. And very interestingly, on page 22b, the author explicitly references this passage that I just cited above in the Zohar and explicitly connects it to a chick hatching from an egg. Okay, so this interpretation demonstrates the continuity of this metaphor in Kabbalistic thought. Now, let us now focus on the parallels with the ancient Orphic sources and writings. As I stated previously, the Zohar passage included a reference to air in its description of creation. And in the Orphic cosmogony, we also see this very momentous mention of air in the account of the cosmic origins. And so thus we see these cross-cultural connections where this parallel, of course, really proves, it doesn't suggest, but it proves how the Orphic mysteries are rooted in our very primordial Hebrew Kabbalah. Now, let us talk about the divine light of Phanes, because the meaning of Phanes in ancient Greek, it translates to shining, referring to the divine light that was emitted during the cosmic egg's breaking. And the breaking of the cosmic egg symbolizes the emergence of divine light. And there is this creation parallel with this concept aligning with the Zohar's description of light emerging, from the primordial entity, from the breaking that occurred, during creation. So what we quintessentially have here is the breaking of the divine cosmic egg is quintessentially the arcanum of the mystery of the breaking of the vessels. Okay? And this, of course, is revealed in the Zohar, and it is first popularly revealed in the very esoteric Lurianic corpus, in the teachings of the Arizal. And so both metaphors involve the release of divine light or energy. Now, what I have done here is I have quintessentially revealed one of the most sublime and highest of arcana in revealing this very powerful sublime key. There are tons of numerous mysteries behind this very powerful sublime key that I have just revealed here. And I cannot revelate any further on this very esoteric arcane matter. But just know and understand what has been done here by the chief magician of Mystery Babylon. Because this is beyond profound. I cannot emphasize how ridiculously sublime and esoteric this key is that I have just revealed. Again, it is just one of the highest source and proof that I am chief magician of Mystery Babylon. Now, let us then speak to this synthesis of mystical concepts, okay? And sort of summarize these key parallels between what is found in the Zohar and the Orphic tradition, which both speak of a primordial state vis-a-vis the cosmic egg and the emergence of the chick, the point breaking through, or Phanis emerging, and the result being the emergence of this intense, powerful divine light. Now, I want to talk about the mystery of the silkworm and the cosmic egg. Ancient philosophers and mystical philosophical religious texts draw intriguing connections between the silkworm, the cosmic egg, and the creation myth. These concepts intertwine across cultures and languages, revealing fascinating linguistic and symbolic parallels. So there is this really interesting passage in Sephariah on silkworm and snails. And it's found in Sefer HaZohar in the very same passage I cited above, where it begins by stating, radiance, concealed of the concealed, struck its aura, the aura touched and did not touch this point. Then the beginning emanated and made itself a palace worthy of glory and praise. Radiance, sowing seed for its glory like the seed of fine purple silk, the silkworm wraps itself within and makes itself a palace. This palace is its praise and benefit to all. With this beginning, the concealed one who was not known created the palace. So what we see here very interestingly is the Zohar bringing this very profound metaphor and connection between the cosmic egg and the silkworm. Now this is very, very interesting for what follows. Because the ancient Neoplatonist Plutarch, in one of his works, discusses the cosmic egg in his work on egg-chicken precedents. And there he explicitly connects the divine cosmic egg with the image of a silkworm, which then begs the question, did the grandmasters and authors behind Zohar know about this, about Plutarch? Of course they did. It's already revealed in the Zohar that the ancient grandmaster Kabbalists knew about the ancient Greek writings. They were grandmasters. They had a grandmaster of all of the ancient writings, quintessentially. So now let's look at some very powerful linguistic connections, penetrating and diving deeper into the Zoharic passage cited above. So again, going back to these very enigmatic terms used in the Zohar, the first one being the Tehidu, which in Aramaic means purity or whiteness. Again, this is in reference to the cosmic egg because the cosmic egg is white. Okay, so here you have another powerful connection. You also have the Aramaic word botsina, which in Aramaic means either a lamp or a spark. This comes from the Hebrew root betza, which means egg. So already the use of this word botsina in the Zohar passage is already telepstically alluding to the divine cosmic egg. Very, very, very powerful. Okay, so already as we penetrate the text even deeper, and we extract all of these mysteries, we can begin to see just how embedded the divine cosmic egg is within the Zohar passage. Okay? It's also very interesting that in the Semitic brother to Hebrew, Arabic, the words for egg, beta, and white, abyad, are derived from the same root. Even more interesting is that the Greek word for egg, which is oon, when transliterated into Hebrew as oyon, is phonetically similar to the Hebrew word ayin. This is very momentous for what follows. So let's talk about the mystery of Kether now and how this relates to the cosmic divine egg. So according to the Zohar, creation begins with the first sphera Kether. And according to the Zohar, Kether is equated with Ein, which means nothingness. Okay, so this goes back to the linguistic connection just mentioned, that the Greek word oion or egg is phonetically very similar to the word ein when transliterated. Again, cementing another powerful connection to the divine cosmic egg. Okay, so again, already I've revealed numerous seals and proofs cementing these connections and parallels to the Orphic mysteries, proving that the Orphic mysteries are rooted in the primordial Hebrew Kabbalah. Now, I want to talk about there's this very scholarly book called The Orphic Theogony in the Pseudo-Clementines. Okay, and let me just preface this by stating and just basically stating that there's absolutely nothing pseudo about the Pseudo-Clementines. This is an extremely sublime ancient Christian Jewish Gnostic text that reveals very sublime mysteries. Some of the most sublime mysteries are revealed in this text. There is absolutely nothing pseudo about this. Now, I'm not gonna dive any further, or I'm not gonna dive deeper any further into this matter. I just anyone who is further interested in this subject, I suggest that you obtain this very scholarly book called The Orphic Theogony in the Pseudo-Clementines if you want to learn more on the subject. That will go even further in connecting, the ancient Kabbalistic roots of the Orphic mysteries, and it's also its relation to ancient Gnosticism, for that matter. So I now want to talk about. I want to conclude the presentation by talking about ancient wisdom and tracing Greek philosophy to its Eastern origins, as I prefaced this presentation. So, this exploration here, this presentation has dwelled into the connections between ancient Greek philosophy and ancient Eastern wisdom traditions, drawing from the works. I'm gonna in the slides that follow, I'll be drawing from the works of Clement, Aristobulus, Numinus, and others, and we'll begin to uncover the it's not a possibility, but the very fact that revered Greek philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras borrowed heavily from ancient Jewish, Egyptian, and other Eastern sources. And so our journey will examine specific claims and quotations that they don't suggest, they actually prove a profound influence of Eastern thought on Western philosophy, that's going to challenge, modern understanding on the origins of classical Greek ideas. You'll have to forgive some of the language here in the slides. The AI kind of, did this, and it's my fault that I didn't correct the AI's language in these slides. But okay, continuing on. I want to begin with Clement's revelations on the ancient Jewish master or grandmaster Aristobulus. So Aristobulus on Plato, he states that Plato too has followed our legislation and has evidently studied carefully the several precepts contained in it. By legislation, we were referring to the ancient Hebrew or Jewish legislation. Clement's commentary then follows by, so it is perfectly clear that the philosopher before mentioned has borrowed much, for he is very learned. And then on Pythagoras, he says, as also with Pythagoras, who transferred many of our precepts into his own system of doctrines. And Clement cites Aristobulus, a peripatetic philosopher who claims that Plato closely studied and followed Jewish legislation. This assertion suggests a direct influence of Jewish thought on Plato's philosophy, and Clement extends this claim to Pythagoras, stating that he incorporated many Jewish precepts into his own doctrines. So what we have here is proof, indisputable, indubitable proof that, very famous ancient Greek philosophers were initiated by our ancient Hebrew Jewish hierophants and apostles. And this is very, very, very momentous for what follows. Okay. So we have also the ancient Greek grandmaster Numinus and the Moses-Plato connection. Numinus makes this very bold claim that compares Plato to Moses. He explicitly is on record stated in one of his books, "For what is Plato but Moses speaking in Attic Greek?" It does not get any more powerful than this. The implications and ramifications of this are beyond staggering, because this statement suggests a profound, deep connection between Greek philosophy and Jewish thought. Numinus' assertion goes beyond mere influence, implying that Plato's ideals were essentially reiterations of Moses' teachings in Greek philosophical language. This bold claim challenges the traditional view of Greek philosophy as an entirely original creation. This is a fallacious, spurious understanding of many modern scholars and modern thought. Now, Numinus and philosophical connections. We have Plato's testimony. Numinus emphasizes the importance of using Plato's own words as evidence. Now, Numinus also, this is where it gets beyond powerful, because Numinus also explicitly states in one of his books, "But when one has spoken upon this point, and sealed it by the testimonies of Plato, it will be necessary to go back and connect it with the precepts of Pythagoras, and to appeal to the nations of good repute, bringing forward their rites and doctrines and their institutions which are formed in agreement with those of Plato, all the Brahmins, the Jews, the Magi, and the Egyptians arranged." So much then on these points. This, of course, is all found in Eusebius's Magnus Opus, Preparatorio Evangelica, or Preparation for the Gospel, in Book 9, chapters 6 to 7. Now, I want to begin by stating that there are two church fathers that I had the highest respect and honor for, and those are Origen and Eusebius. Okay? All the other church fathers I consider to be extremely inferior, stupid, and I would go as far as to say retarded. Okay? Because what we see here is that Numinus outlines a methodology for tracing philosophical ideas, suggesting a chain of influence. Actually, he's proving a chain of influence from Eastern traditions to Pythagoras to Plato. And this approach, of course, applies a complex web of intellectual exchange across ancient cultures. Okay? So, I say all of this because a lot of the church fathers were aware of this knowledge that I have presented here. Okay? And the inferior church fathers wrote many books attempting to refute Gnosticism. Okay? But what I have presented here, this very ancient wisdom and knowledge, okay, that is cited by, that comes from these very ancient grandmasters, was very well known to the ancient Gnostics. And it was used by the ancient Gnostics to prove their theology and their wisdom and their knowledge. Okay? Now, the church fathers, knowing and understanding these points that I brought forward here, at the same time attempted to refute Gnosticism, when in fact these points seal and prove the veracity and voraciousness of Gnosticism. Okay, so what we have in here quintessentially is a gargantuan, immense, massive display of stupidity, absolute stupidity. In fact, I would go as far as to say retardation, absolute retardation on the part of all of the church fathers, with the exception of Origen and Eusebius. Okay, that the church fathers were aware of this knowledge and then go as far as to contradict it in refuting Gnosticism is a profound, deep display of absolute stupidity and retardation. I cannot emphasize this enough. And I actually dive very deep into this matter, proving this matter in my recent publication and book, Gnosticism in the New Testament, a book that is a must own. Every person must own this book and obtain this book of mine, Gnosticism in the New Testament. It is required reading for any true initiate and adept, and is a must own. So, I now want to conclude by, um, you know, going back to the Bible and why this is all important. I want to cite a very powerful verse in the Bible found in First Kings or Melachim Aleph in chapter 4, verse 30. And I'm basically going to cite here the Septuagint translation, which I consider to be more powerful than most other English translations, because the Septuagint translation is, and Shlomo abounded greatly beyond the wisdom of all the ancients. The original Hebrew word there is kadem, which means ancient. So that's why I consider the Septuagint translation to be probably the most powerful translation of the underlying Hebrew. There's many levels to the underlying Hebrew, but this is one of the most powerful levels to it. This is very important because what the Bible is informing us of here is that quintessentially what the ancients were known for was their great wisdom. The Bible informs us and tells us that there's this very powerful equation between the ancients and wisdom, letting us know that the quintessence of the ancients was their immense and great wisdom. That's what they're known for. And what made King Shlomo so powerful and so divine was as great and as powerful as the wisdom of the ancients was. King Shlomo's wisdom was even higher than, exceeded all of the wisdom of the ancients. Okay, now this is a very, very esoteric matter because there's only a handful of people. There's very, very few people that truly know and understand what the actual wisdom of the ancients was. And when the Bible is talking about the ancients here, it's talking about the generation of Adam, the generation of Noah, the antediluvian epic. And it's only real occultists that have the true keys and understanding of what this ancient wisdom of the ancients that the Bible refers to actually was, and why King Shlomo was such a powerful divine figure. Okay, well, this is important because, the reason I had the highest respect and honor for these two ancient church fathers, Origen and Eusebius, is because they understood this. They had a full understanding of what I'm revealing here. So much so that they cited the ancients in their generation in their books. They gave great authority to the ancients and cited the ancients in their own works to prove their own points. And so they truly were very wise. The same cannot be said of the rest of the church fathers. Okay? And so this is why it is so important to study the ancients. And this is why all true grandmasters have a mastery, a true holistic grand mastery of all of the ancients and all of the ancient writings. And this is why the ancient writings are so respected and so revered. They must be respected, they must be revered. And the vast majority of the church fathers, in their great retardation and stupidity, rejected the writings of the ancients. But it's not so with the ancient Jewish Gnostics and the grandmasters, because they had wisdom, they were wise, they understood all of this. So again, it is very, very, I just can't emphasize how ridiculously momentous it is to understand all of this. I can't emphasize this enough. So again, what we see here in summary is that Eusebius and Clement preserved a lot of these ancient writings for us. And we can only but be very, very thankful, for all of this. So, what are the implications for the history of, ancient Greek thought and philosophy? Well, for a long time, you could probably say hundreds of years, many scholars have believed that Greek philosophy as an original creation and a clear distinction between Western and Eastern philosophy. But that is very far from the truth. It has already been proven, and it is known even now by many scholars, that Greek philosophy was influenced by Eastern thought, and the claims presented by Clement, Aristobulus, and Eumenes challenge a lot of the traditional narrative and understanding of, the ancients, essentially. And so again, we have just a lot of really stupid and ignorant. We've had a lot of stupid and ignorant people in academia, unfortunately, for a very long time, to say the least. So that essentially concludes, this presentation, this very, very sublime, powerful presentation, which is just another of many of my seals, of my divine seals, and many of my divine seals, of being the highest Jew and chief magician in Mystery Babylon in this last generation. I have provided so many seals at this point. Through my books, through my blog, through my YouTube channel, etc. I will just conclude by just stating one last point. As I stated earlier, a lot of these revelations can be found in the very genius, brilliant paper that I pointed out at the beginning, from the scholar Yehuda Leibs. And in that paper, I was beyond impressed because in that paper, he came very close to revealing, what I revealed in my book, Divine Revelations from the Holy Samael. As stated in the beginning, in my very esoteric book, Divine Revelations from the Holy Samael, there is a section where I reveal very powerful esoteric equations between the ancient Orphic mysteries and the ancient Jewish Gnosticism and Kabbalah, revelations that have never been known or revealed. And I was beyond impressed because Yehuda Leibs, he came very close, if not almost revealing pretty much a lot of what I revealed in my book, Divine Revelations from the Holy Samael. So it just goes to show just what a true Grandmaster Yehuda Leibs is, that he's able to come to a lot of the revelation that I possess, It's very, very impressive. But anyways, that concludes this very powerful, sublime presentation. I hope you all enjoyed and learned a lot. And let me know what you think about this very powerful presentation that was compiled by AI. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Okay, shalom and salah, everyone.